Hello everybody, welcome back, good morning. Let's have a look at the charts. Obviously we'll get onto Bitcoin and crypto because that has pumped exactly as expected. But really we're going to start with a little bit of stocks because the pullback that was induced last night was induced by the stream and it looks like it's showing signs of life again now. So it's Thursday morning, let's get stuck in. So we've got some hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hourly chart for the US 500, basically the pre-market to the S&P. And we've got this box that we really want to see get retested and ricocheted and bounced from. Now there's a lot of bears out there. I've seen them. I can hear them. They're talking, and that's fine because there is an idea that we are going to go into a massive catastrophic collapse. But there's always somebody saying that, isn't there? Oh, it's the end. It's all coming down. It's a huge crash. Look, there's always a chance of a huge crash. There is. That's what black swans are. And there's always ideas of what the black swan might be and how it could be generated, but see the huge crash not so far as the S&P is concerned, not yet anyway, but we're looking at 5,759 at the top and 5,660 at the bottom, and this is highlighted even more by the golden cross, which is confirmed now on the exponentials at the bottom of the box. And at the top of the box, the weekly 20 moving average as well. Right, so that was boring. We'll move away from that because that is, we had a nice time, but we don't want to look at that. We want to look at this. Oh my God, it's a new all-time high. Oh. So last night we were getting a little worried about the way that this was going to behave because stocks pulled back dramatically, and as a result, so did Bitcoin. Bitcoin was rallying up to a new all-time high, and then it sort of pulled back dramatically, and then it sort of recovered overnight. It's one of those things, isn't it? The first thing you do in the morning, check the phone, have a look at the prices. It's like that quote from a Carry On film. It's like, getting up is not the problem. It's keeping it up. That's the problem, and that is the problem with the price action these days. We can get to these prices and we can get to these areas on charts, but just staying there, that's the problem. But we seem to have stayed there and actually gone a little higher. So let's look for signs of weakness, because that's all I care about at the moment. We need to stay up. Getting it up is fine. It's keeping it up. That's the problem. So, money flow index on the weekly is sitting at 56, which is fine. This is why I'm still very much in favour of seeing this go all the way to September, creating a new all-time high for Bitcoin and crypto and everybody. The bearish divergence, which was apparent a few days ago, has now been cancelled out with the RSI that was peaked above this level. That doesn't mean that it can't pull back just naturally, but the momentum continues, which is fine for me. I'll take a bit of that. The pump signal was generated down here as well. It's $94,000. Loving life, absolutely loving life. Believe it or not, I've still got a 10x leveraged position from around $80,000. I know, that's amazing, right? So the 4-hourly isn't really showing any signs of weakness. There was bearish divergence, all been cancelled out now as we continue to power on through. So Bitcoin, shockingly, obviously can pull back. When you're reaching new all-time highs like this, obviously it can pull back. But unlike, looking at something like, we'll check the weekly. Unlike looking at this, so look at the difference. So that's cool. Okay, some people might be talking about how it's peaking like gold peaked, right? But there was a difference with gold, right? Gold was overheated, bearish divergence all over the place, and then it did have a significant peak and a pullback down into a 10 exponential on a weekly. It doesn't look bad, but at the time, a few weeks ago, it did result in an 11% pullback from the top to the bottom, and we kind of expected that to happen. I said. Gold's peaked, but you go over to Bitcoin, you don't really see that. In fact, what you see is continuation is powerful. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't think about shaving portions of profit off. We are now sitting at $111,000. How high is Bitcoin going to go? Nobody knows exactly the price of Bitcoin at its peak. If it was that easy, it wouldn't have had all these stupid rules and regulations and laws imposed over who can trade and how you can trade and what you're not allowed to do with your own money. So, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. But at the end of the day, it's true. Nobody really knows. That's why most people buy the top. And I have a feeling that most people aren't even paying attention to Bitcoin or crypto at the moment. Mostly because they ain't got any money left. And what I mean is that they ain't got any money left after the previous cycle, and then obviously all the horrendous stuff that's happened to just your average everyday prices, food, fuel, energy, everything costs a bloody fortune. I don't think really people have that kind of income to splash out on speculative, like assets, if you want to call it that at all. Gambling, really, isn't it, for the most part, especially with the vast majority of altcoins. So speaking of altcoins, let's have a look at Ethereum. We were looking at a few things like last night on the stream, including Ethereum, BNB, and XRP dominance. And last night, the Ethereum dominance didn't look very happy, neither did BNB dominance, but XRP dominance was coming to an area where it looked like it could actually bounce significantly. So a lot of the time we want to see Ethereum do well because it's such a large market cap crypto that it forces the Bitcoin dominance chart to go down. At the moment, it's positioned in a nice way. It seems to be getting a bounce this week on the 20 moving average and the 21 exponential moving average. When you have a Bollinger Band strategy, it's dead simple. You're 65% more likely to remain in this portion of the Bollinger Band. So at this point, we've hit the center of it, and that gives you the top target of a converging band this week of around 3,400. So all of this is possible. You can see the clear breakout, and you can see the retest of the center of the band. You don't see any bearish divergence on it either. So it's actually, giving it the benefit of the doubt, looks okay there on the weekly. There's the pump signal here. We've just got this last major moving average to break through. It's your 200 simple moving average, that yellow thing, and that is 2,700. You've got 2,800 above that, and then you've got basically 3,100 around there, which is this. So once all of this is broken, it will take you up to 4,000, but until it's broken, it's not going to do that. And we are below it right now, so respect the resistance. That's all I can tell you to do. Golden Cross, the 4-hour looks good. This is the case for almost all the altcoins, even the worst ones that we looked at last night. But again, this is why there's value in the Patreon. Join me. Links in the description below. We do 2 streams a week. We can look at whatever altcoin you want. Not all of them are created equal. Some are better, some are worse. Some are basically doing exactly the same as everybody else. And for the most part, the 4-hourlies are doing this kind of thing. This is actually much better than the average one, actually, thinking about it. Golden Cross, retest, move up. We're still in that sort of formation, really. And what it does look like we're trying to do is brew another pump signal on the 4-hourly. We're not there yet. You need this portion of the cloud over here to flash green. And then you have all 4 components of another pump signal on a 4-hourly, which should take you to 2,800. Again, it's all going to be market dependent because it's not going to do it on its own, is it? I mean, there is a chance it could do it on its own, but it's unlikely. It does need the rest of the markets to behave as well. The Bitcoin dominance chart, bullish on every time frame, unfortunately. There is a bit of bearish divergence brewing on this 4-hourly. That's fine. The daily, again, we're above the Bollinger Band center as well. We're above the horizontal, so fine. The only thing that I was getting excited for, and it still could be the case, is that we might be getting, with a new local high on this, you might get another drive of bearish divergence on the weekly, which should be enough at that point to say, oh, okay, I think it's time for us to come down and cool down. But right now, it does look like it wants to put in a new local high, so you just have to, you've got to tell it how it is, That doesn't mean that alt season's not around the corner. But you got to go down the road first to go around the corner, and it looks like there's a little bit more road to go down before we even turn the corner. Finally, XRP, same as it always is, and again, it's a broken record, but it is the truth. It's not bad. Breakout of momentum, breakout of money flow, which is your volume basically. Not quite yet broken out of price action, and we've got to get it above $2.50. The daily's still holding on to that Bollinger Band, which is fine. Every little counts. Every day that we're above this level, which currently is $2.35, is good. But we do need to get above 250 again to think about the big breakout, which should take you straight up to a new all-time high pretty quickly. And then with that, it'll take your XLM, your Algo, your XDC, your HBAR, all these things. They're all sort of correlated with XRP and XRP's success. That's what we're waiting for. So all eyes on 250 or above closure on a weekly for XRP. But long story short, last night was a bit iffy because stocks pulled back you know, as the stream has taken place. I mean, we're not sure if they will continue with that direction today, but generally speaking, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave it with you there. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Trade safe and enjoy the ride.